if you look at our industry, games get bigger and bigger, they get better and better, but creating them also becomes harder and harder often. And that's especially true in the massively multiplayer area. And if you look at, for example, the Star Wars New Republic game, that game took hundreds of people to develop, took hundreds of millions of dollars to develop, took many years to develop, and it was still not successful because it's going up directly head-to-head with the other big successful MMOs for a market which has now been demonstrated to be fairly finite. It's much bigger than the solo player market, but it's still finite. There's a couple of tens of millions of players globally who will do it, but the only way to gain market share is to displace one of the other game companies or games that are already capturing that mind share. And so I look at that as a great case study of what we cannot afford to do in this industry. Frankly, even if it worked, I no longer have the tolerance for it anymore. In other words, to spend 5 to 7 years making one game, to spend hundreds of millions of dollars making one game, is not only too hard and too risky, but I think it's no longer necessary. And I think that because of the speed of computers, we're finally to the point where we don't have to reinvent the camera with each game. In earlier games, in my first games, I had to write the tools to draw a pixel on screen. There were no paint programs, there were no 3D modeling programs. I wrote the code to take hex input, convert that to bits that showed up on screen. I mean, I had to draw it on graph paper, convert that to binary, convert that to hex, enter that in hex, and copy that memory onto the screen. It was incredibly painful. But up until about 10 years ago, we had to reinvent the camera every time. Finally, about 10 years ago, machines were powerful enough where art tools, 3D modeling tools, and some 3D render pipelines like Unreal or Quake pipelines were available to do the final stage of presenting graphics on screen. But one of the things that I think is very, very important about this new era is we've got tools like Unity here behind us who are now creating entire development environments to where instead of writing it all from scratch, you can save the first 2 years and $5 million worth of spending by finding an integrated development environment to allow you to focus on the creativity, to focus on content, as opposed to reinventing the camera with each iteration of games.